So when we're doing a behavioral chain analysis, let's say that we're processing one of the arguments that Lisa's had with her boyfriend. I'm going to prefer, as a DBT clinician, to process one that ended maybe with her feeling suicidal. How am I going to know that? Because she's going to have a diary card. She's going to keep a DBT diary card. So a diary card is not something that, you said, "Dear diary, today I felt really bad and Jane was mean to me." No, it's like you're marking yes or no. You're putting down numbers 0 to 5. These are very clear-cut assessments that I can, as a therapist, I can look at and I run my finger down, or I'm looking on a virtual card and I say, "Oh, Tuesday looked really rough. It looks like that you had urges to hurt yourself. You had some suicidal urges on Tuesday. Is that right?" Yes. Yeah. And they're at a 3. That seems pretty significant, especially because the rest of the week they were at a 0. What happened? You see, so that may end up linking to the fight anyway. Or she could say, "I don't know, I don't want to talk about it." Okay. Then you fall back on your commitments, which is, okay, I know you want to talk about the other stuff. I want to talk about that stuff too. And let's get through this if we can. Let's get through this as quick as we can, and then we'll move on. And who knows, maybe those things will tie in together. So your stance as a therapist has got to not be therapist-y. Like, there's no other way to say it. It cannot be therapist-y. You cannot be weird and be a good DBT therapist. You cannot be tiptoey and so careful and patronize and be a good DBT therapist. So it's going to be something like, "Well, I know I don't think maybe it's going to be as big as the DBT makes it out to be, but let's just look. Let's just look, And so we're gonna bounce off the other person. We're gonna read their body language. We're gonna read their temperament, and we're not gonna take ourselves too seriously, and we're going to take ourselves very seriously at the same time, right? That's a dialectic, because it's a serious thing. We're talking about suicide. So sometimes I'm going to take that stance. I'm going to say, what kind of a therapist would I be if I literally looked at the diary card that you just gave me and it said I had urges to want to kill myself at a 3, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, never mind. Let's just don't even talk about that. Who even cares?" What kind of therapist would I be? You see, so that's what I would say to a client, depending. Both of those styles are consistent with me as a personality. And so for therapists, they're going to need to find, you have your own style and your own personality and your own way of helping people, and you always have. And so you need to be able to ground into that and be you. You can do these things and be you. You cannot be me, and I cannot be you. So you want to ground into what's your style in getting those things done. So DBT is a manualized treatment, right? It's manualized, and we have all of these things we have to check off. And at the same time, we cannot go by the manual. Otherwise, we're going to be absolutely weird. We can't do it exactly as a manualized treatment. For those of you who've ever used like ChatGPT or AI, when that stuff comes out, if you've edited it or not. Some of it looks weird and it's just off. And that's the way it is if you try to proceed through the manual like this and do it like that. You've got to be able to do it your way. So with our diary card, we're tracking actions and urges, and we're going to create that diary card in the beginning. So our first few sessions, we're going to be creating Lisa's diary card. She's going to want to track whatever she wants to call it, blow-ups or anger outbursts. Clients give their own names to some of these behaviors. Sometimes they'll make funny names, and it's fine. You put that on the diary card and they track that. We're going to, at minimum, we're going to track her suicidal urges and actions. So if a person is self-harming, we will also do that. I don't put that on every diary card because it's not applicable for every person. So we're assessing in the beginning what needs to go on there. Actions and urges are two different things. As a therapist, at some point, I'm looking for high urges and no actions. So I do want some point where Lisa comes to, I really had urges to blow up at my boyfriend. Urges were at a 5. That's the highest number. Urges are at a 5. And actions were no. That's what I'm looking for. And the reason for that is because we've got to be able to habituate to that level of intensity without giving in to the behavior. I want her at that point when she's at a 5 to use some other technique for reducing the intensity of that anger. Maybe it's she uses mindfulness, she uses observe, describe. Maybe she uses loving kindness meditation, which is, you're sort of sending loving feelings either to yourself or to like your pet, someone that you care about. So you're generating those loving feelings. Maybe she's using the tip skill and she's sticking her face in a bowl of ice water. She's using temperature. She's bringing down our physiology that way. So we have a variety of different skills, and there is no 100%, this is the skill to use for that. So we have a collection of them, just like we do if you were in construction and you had your toolbox, you've got a variety of them. If you've only got a hammer, what is it that they say? Everything looks like a nail. So we don't want to just use our hammer on everything because that would be destructive. Another example is we would not want to use our interpersonal skills. We wouldn't want to use Dear Man, which is an acronym. It's a way of asking for something. You're saying no, describe, express, assert, reinforce. That's really not relevant here. But the point is, if you use Dear Man at 10 o'clock at night and you keep using Dear Man until 2 a.m. in the morning, it's not very skillful because you're just trying to regulate your emotions by repeating something over and over, and your partner wants to go to bed. So we can't use every skill for every situation. There are certain skills that go with certain situations.